What's good? What's good? It's your boy Danli Divine here with another episode of Divine Time. On this episode, I'm going to be doing Speak Your Truth. It's a beautiful segment where we have individuals who can come on and talk about the things that they have gone through, whether it is something that is mental, something that is physical, but anything that they have grown from. I have a beautiful woman here with me. I'm going to have her introduce herself. What's your name?
My name is Eudalia, but I go by
Customer
Dolly.
service voice.
I know, right? But I go by Dolly because most folk can't say my name, so you can call me Dolly. You can say my name.
Say
Most
my
folks can
name,
say
say my name. Sorry.
you're singing.
Okay. So with it, in this podcast, the way that I'm going with it is I ultimately just want to be able to allow people to use their voice, to tell their stories, to reach and impact other individuals, and possibly give them that insight, give them that comfort, and also let them know that, you know what, you're not going through this alone, or that someone else has gone through it also, and there is a light at the end of the tunnel, you know?
Yeah, for
So, I
sure.
mean, I'm gonna go ahead and stop talking and let you take it from here.
Okay. Um, well, like I said, my name is Dolly. Um, it took me a minute to kind of figure out what story I wanted to talk about because when you go through life, you go through life,
Hmm.
like different stages of life brings you different things. Like there's a saying, different levels, different devils. So um what I was going to talk about today was Black women in healthcare. That's what I want to talk about. So I've never told my story regarding my experience with healthcare, the system. Granted, I'll start by saying this. When I was 18, I went to school to become a CNA. So I worked as a CNA for a few years in Hawaii. I went back to school. I got out of the field. Then I went back. I got my CCMA, but I never really got the opportunity to work in my actual field. As far as hands-on on the medical aspect, I worked more of the front desk with my CCMA. Reason being is because I had a missed diagnosis, also known as a delayed diagnosis. Um, Back in 2020, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And I like to say that I battle MS. I do not have MS because you speak life and death in your tongue. So I don't like to say that I have, I like to say that I battle. Okay. So like I said, I was diagnosed with MS in 2020. However, I was having symptoms from like 2014, 2015. Going to the doctor and expressing at the age of 27, yeah, I'm experiencing some tingling and numbness in my toes. Okay, well, let's go and get that checked out and so on and so forth. Um, my healthcare provider then, or insurance provider then, phenomenal. She was civilian, let's say civilian. For those of you who understand why I'm using that terminology, you understand why I'm saying a civilian healthcare provider on point. You know, that's not normal. You're 27 years old, you're healthy, you're functioning, your blood work is fine. Let's figure out why you are experiencing numbness and tingling in your toes. There were incidents where I like to wear heels, the higher the better. 6-inch heels, platform, that's kind of gives you a little background on myself, like, hey, the higher, the better.
Turn up,
So,
turn up.
so there was an incident, and now this has been years from now. So now I can look back and laugh at some of these incidents. A year from now, I wasn't able to laugh. So this is progress. I'm in a place where I can share, but I recall an incident where I was wearing my 6-inch heels, walking through my parking lot at work, and I fell. And not like no trip, but like, I mean, like fall on the ground. And people are like, oh my God, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I just kind of, lost my footing a little bit. And that was an indication like something ain't right. So I go back to the doctor, my civilian doctor, and she's like, well, let's do an MRI because it sounds like you're having some neurological issues with your balance and all that stuff. So she was very concerned for someone who's fairly healthy, if not very healthy, to, fall. Granted, I ate pretty well. I went to the gym, very active. Um, so she was concerned. Well, life happens. I got pregnant. You can't do an MRI when you're pregnant. And so I had to wait. Now, mind you guys, this is about 2015. And I got married at the ending of 2016, and therefore I had a change in insurance. So I was pregnant. I moved over to another insurance 2016. And after I had my child, had my son, I went to resume my healthcare to figure out at this point now, not only are my toes numb, but my feet are numb. Um, my legs are starting to feel a little numb at this point, and my balance is off. And I'm starting to feel some changes in my body that are not normal. So I'm going back. I said, when I have this, after I have my baby, I'm going back to a neurologist to figure out, to kind of pick up where I left off before, I got pregnant. I get to this particular doctor, and this doctor is no longer a civilian doctor. So I'm going to I have to go to a specific doctor because now my insurance is very particular. Um, yeah, I don't want to actually say who it is that I had, but again, those of you who are familiar with civilian doctor, or if you
Keep
have to
it
go to
keep
a
it
specific,
confidential.
yes, trying to keep it confidential. Like I said, I do have a medical background, just a little bit. I understand HIPAA and all that stuff. Um, yeah, so I go to this doctor, and of course, me coming from a medical background, I made sure I went to my civilian provider and got my medical records and brought it over. So they had all my documents. All you had to do was look at the documentation from that specific neurologist and say, all right, so you guys are doing this. Let's pick up from here where she left off and see what's going on. This new sector equipment is not the best. You feel me? Like it's not. So I go ahead and we do the MRI scan, and you know, they're like, oh, everything is normal. We're running all these tests. Oh, everything is normal. Your blood work's fine. Your MRI is fine. Your brain is fine. Your spine is fine. Like everything is fine. You're great. Let's just send you off to physical therapy to help you with. At this point, I can't feel in my left leg. I can't feel in my left foot. If I get too hot, I'm dragging my foot. So, these are some things that I was enduring in my body, that I was noticing my symptoms were getting worse. Um, and so I'm like, physical therapy to help with the weakness in my body, to help, or my legs. I wasn't able to stand as long as I was able to before. Like I said, I was active, dance. I have a dancing background, so I'm a flag bearer. So dancing, I need to be able to stand up longer fatigue. I wasn't able to jump, skip, hop, run, like those things I was unable to do at this point. This is 2016. And it was starting to take a toll on me mentally at this point, because you go from a place of being able to do what you are once able to do without any hindrances to a position where, hey man, if I try and run, this left leg is not doing what I'm telling it to do, and I'm falling, like that's not cool. I broke my baby toe because I couldn't sense the distance of my foot from the door frame, broke my toe, and people are like, how you break your toe? It makes you feel some type of way, so um that's part of the mental toll. It started there. Like, what's wrong with me? Am I making this up? Because at this point, the doctor that I was seeing was a Caucasian neurologist, an older gentleman. And he said, I've run all the tests. Everything that's coming back is normal. I don't know. If you're feeling it, then it must be going on. So for someone to tell you if and it must, that is an indication of you really don't care about me. I'm coming to you expressing my concerns, and from your response, you're telling me that I'm pretty much making this up, that I'm concocting this up. And then you're just brushing me off to physical therapy. And when I go to physical therapy, they're like, well, what's the diagnosis?
That was gaslighting.
At its finest. Um, and like I said, physical therapy is like, well, what's the diagnosis? I'm like, I don't know. I told this man I'm numb, I'm weak. And I'm telling them all the things that I'm going through in my body. And they're like, well, how are we going to treat you for something that we don't know we're treating you for? We can try and strengthen your legs. You know what I'm saying? We can try and do these things, but if we don't know what the diagnosis is, what are we treating? And me again, medical background, your guess is as good as mine because you're going in it blind. I'm just being obedient. That way, I'm not told or being called the stereotypical Black woman of being, well, you're just being loud and, doing what you want to do. You don't believe nothing nobody says. You're uneducated and all of these things where that's not true. That's a stereotype. That's a stigma you've put upon me when I'm very educated and I understand my body. I understand that this is not right. Long story short, let me tell you how God works. We were living in California at the time, and my husband got deployed. And then when he got back, we moved. And when I received notice and we were going, I was like, why are we going to Nebraska? Like, why? Nebraska? And here's the ignorance in me. Ain't no Black people in Nebraska. Ignorant. I'm calling myself very ignorant because that was a very ignorant statement of me to make. And it was it was just ignorant, period. I'm gonna call a spade a spade. Like I'm very transparent. um, so I was kind of reluctant to go. Plus, I was very comfortable where I was at. I had my support system. My brother lived 2 states above me. I was seeing him often, and that brought me joy. It was just different little things where I was comfortable. I had my spiritual parents, my church home, like I was still flagging when I could, ministering in song. Like I was comfortable. God, why Nebraska? Why? Well, God will take you out of a place and put you somewhere out of your comfortable place and uproot you to somewhere uncomfortable so that he can get your attention to do what he needs to do for you. So in me battling in my body and being comfortable and not being treated properly in the healthcare system brought me to a place where I did not know that Nebraska they're up there in like medical. Their hospital is one of the top rated hospitals in the nation. I did not know this. Ignorant. So we get there, and I'm all sad and depressed, like, oh, I miss my friends. I miss my brother. I miss my spiritual family. I miss my church, like moping because I got in my flesh and myself. And I started working, symptoms started getting worse. Stress is a trigger for MS. It gets worse. As soon as I got there, I got pregnant again. So baby number 3, more stress on the body. You go through more stuff on a mental basis, husband, kids, work, you know what I'm saying? It's mental stress, day-to-day stressors, affect your immune system. Um, Went through a high-risk pregnancy, more toll on the body. At this point, I'm going to physical therapy for my body, still weakness, no diagnosis. And they're sending me to another physical therapist to treat pelvic floor because now I'm having issues after I had my son, had baby 3. We come from a family of big heads, so they messed me up with my bladder. So they're trying to correct some things there. Long story short, finally I got a doctor to actually listen to me. And he said, I switched PCMs quite a few times. Finally, I got fed up. I got fed up and I put my foot down. I said, listen, I've been told over the course of how many years that I'm healthy. All my blood work is normal. All my organs are functioning fine. Everything is fine, but it's not. There's no reason why I'm losing the sensation in my feet. There's no reason, and I was a smoker, so I will say that I was a smoker. There's no reason why whenever I would smoke cigarettes, it seems like my symptoms would intensify where I could not walk. It literally felt like I had pins and needles in my legs. My back was beginning to hurt. My hips would hurt. The pain would shoot down in my legs. My legs would feel like jello and they would shake. Um, if I literally have fallen out of chairs because I could not feel that I was sitting down because I had lost the sensation from my waist down. Um, could not stand for a long period of times, could not walk. I had our third son in 2019, still no diagnosis. I took a girls' trip with my mom and my aunt to Las Vegas in July. Anybody's been to Vegas or knows anything about Vegas knows that time of year, and it's like, oh my God, you don't go outside. Black people don't go outside in July in Vegas. It's just if you are sweet because you are chocolate and you will melt. Well, I'm with my lovely mom and my lovely auntie who are just like, let's go outside. It's 100 degrees outside. Sis, it's hot. You're black. We already attract heat. And I'm cute. I'm not trying to be busting all these beads of sweat. Like, what? Granted, I wanted to have fun. I haven't had a break in a minute. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I've been going through all of these things in hiding. You know what I'm saying? Like my brother and my mom didn't know the like the extent of what I was battling in my body because I kept those things from them because I don't want them to worry about me. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh my God, we granted we may feel each other, we can sense stuff is going on, but when you battle stuff on that magnitude, it messes with you mentally. Um, and you retract because I don't want to be a burden to anybody. So we get out there. Mind you guys, my aunt is a physician. Okay, so we get out there. They would have walked the strip. Let's go see this show and let's walk from one end of the strip to the other end of the strip. And I'm like, you know what? To each his own. Let's do this. Knowing it's hot as the Dickens. I promise you, they say that Vegas is like the devil's playground. Yeah, because it's hot. Yes. Anyway, so we get out there and we're walking, and we're not even like 3 blocks. And I'm literally dragging my left leg. And I'm throwing the leg, walking. And my mom's like, what is going on? What? She's never seen me in that state. I've never seen myself in that state. And so if you've been to Vegas, period, when it's popping season, I mean, it's like, what is it? In New York City, the little square. What is that? Times Square. I read your lips. Thank you. It's like Times Square on New Year's Eve. There were so many people out there. And for me, I'm just like, I was embarrassed. I feel like everybody named Mama was looking at me. My mom, my aunt left me. So I'm by myself throwing this leg and I'm embarrassed. And every 5 minutes I had to pee because with MS, it affects your bladder. So I'm throwing like, and I'm like, God, what is wrong with me? Crying. Thank God I was sweating so daggone much. Somebody realized that I was crying while I was sweating because I didn't understand what was going on in my body. And at that moment, like my mom, I could see the concern. Like she stopped and she was like, she's just watching me walk. And I think for me that this it did something to me in my spirit. Like I can sit like sense her as a parent, very concerned. Like, what is wrong with my child? Like, what's wrong with my baby? Why is she walking like that? I could sense that. And she came back to me because, like I said, they left me. She came back to me and she literally helped me walk to the rest of our destination. Like she helped me walk to where we were getting at, and then like moving people out the way, like, excuse me, as I'm trying because I couldn't walk, like moving people. And at that moment, I was like, wow, it did something for me, for my to my mom. Like, wow, okay. One of those moments, like it was a different type of connection. Um, but it just showed me that mother-daughter relationship or mother-child relationship, that nurturing. Like mom reverted back to that nurturer for when I was a baby or a child. Like it took me back there, that I had to get my finger on it. It took me back there, when your baby fall off their bike and maybe break something and you're like, oh my God, like what can I do to help? It was like that in that moment. And after everything was said and done, like I can like feel in her spirit, like she didn't know really what to say to kind of get an understanding of what's going on. And she was kind of like, why didn't you tell me? We would have just drove. And I was like, Ma, I didn't know. I didn't know that this was going to happen. And she was like, really? I said, this is the first time that this has ever happened to me. And I said, and I'm glad that it happened when I was with you so that you could see it. I said, it's something different from one of your friends, one of your girlfriends, or whatever, maybe seeing you like that. I said, but it's a different when your mom or your dad, mainly your mom, sees you in that state because your mama knows you better than anybody else. Mama knows you inside and out. Mama knows what color your stuff is. You know what I'm saying? Because mama used to wipe down there. She knows you. She knows what every birthmark is, every nick. I mean, mama knows you. So for me, it was like, I'm glad that you were there in that moment to see I'm not freaking crazy. I'm not crazy. What I am experiencing, which that doctor in California said, well, if it's going on, then it must be true. No, it is true. In that moment, it was, if you would have told me, I would have drove. It was that empathetic, that sympathy, that nurturing, that caring, which is needed, even as an adult child, we still need that. And I feel like sometimes as in our culture, we lack that. Oh, you grown, you 18? No, I'm 36 years old, and there's times where I still need my mama to go lay, and I see my mom, I'll be like, I will go sit next to her, and I will still lay my head on her shoulder. I still come up behind her and give her hugs. Like that's just, you know what I'm saying? Like I still need my mom. I still need that love. I still need that affection. I still need that confirmation, that affirmation. Like I still need that. And as long as she on this planet, I'm gonna get it. Um, but anyways, you know, that was just an eye opening for me. And then being with my aunt, who is a physician, she was like, I didn't like that. I don't like what I see. And she kind of gave me some insight as to you need to go and you need to ask for X, Y, and Z. And so when I finally went back home and I was said I had enough, and I went to that doctor, I had enough. Something ain't right. And I had that experience. No, I went to Las Vegas and it was hot, and this was what happened. When I stand up for too long, I get tired. I fell out of a chair because I couldn't feel that I was sitting in the chair and I slid out of the chair. Or I stepped on something and something like I couldn't really feel that I had stepped on it, but my nerves overreacted and I fell on the floor. Those experiences, I was able to write all of those things down, keep a log of all of my symptoms. This is important. I kept a log of all my symptoms and I took it to the doctor. That doctor, this is what's going on. This should not be happening. Let's redo your MRI scan. Better yet, let me refer you to somebody else who knows better. Thank you. Appreciate it. So at that point, they referred me to a neurologist out in town, a civilian neurologist at University of Nebraska Medicine. And I will call them out all day long because without them, I would not probably not be here today. I'm gonna be 100% with you. So I went to University of Nebraska Med, see a neurologist. Like I said, I kept a log of my symptoms. I wrote down every symptom. If anything I experienced, I wrote it down. When I went to go see her, well, what's going on? Sweet lady. What's going on? What do you know, how long has this been going on? Pulled out one right in my purse. This is what's going on. I experienced this, when this happens, this, and I went down the list. First session, the first visit, intake. I think I have an idea what's going on. And I love this about her, and this is the best doctor I've ever had in my whole life. And I told her this, and I was so sad I had to leave her. Period. She said, I think I know what's going on, but I don't want to say anything because I want to make sure I'm 100% sure before I tell you. In that moment, I respected her off gate. Much respect. Thank you. I appreciate it. She said, what I want for you to do. I said, I'll do anything you need me to do. I was that desperate. And do whatever you need me to do. Okay, well, I need you to go and do this MRI scan of your brain, your thoracic spine, and your middle spine. I'm like, okay. Yes, ma'am. Whatever. It's going to be about an hour and a half, 2 hours to do this MRI scan. What? You know what? Let's do it. I don't care. I need answers. I'm tired. Let's get it over with. I don't care. Whatever you need me to do, I'll do it. She's like, okay, well, we'll schedule it. So on and so forth. This is 2020, you guys. Okay. I believe that this was October 2020. I was like, all right, cool. Go get the MRI scan. Did the MRI. I didn't know I was claustrophobic. This much. This much. This much. Okay. Until I went and got this MRI
I feel like it was really like this much.
Let me tell you. I think I had an MRI before, and I was cool with it. I did. I had one prior, but this is when I really realized, intense, intense. Woo!
It doesn't help with that noise too when you're sitting there. You hear that tick, 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 tick. It's like, yo, what the heck?
You can't move your head. When she sat me in the thing, but make sure your head stays right here. I was like, okay, cool. When she put that joke over my face, and I looked like Hellraiser. And I was sitting there like, your head is in a cage, not Hellraiser. What is that? 13 Ghosts? Remember the jackal? It was the jackal on 13 Ghosts. That's what I felt like. What I looked like, and I felt, Lord, no, I do not look like or feel like no jackal because that thing was evil. It was just the cage. And I was just like freaking out because you can't move. It cuts off your whole range of motion. She's like, you want to play some music? Yes, please, please. Music is soothing to me. So she puts on the headphones first. My bad. No, she takes it off and puts it on. Like, thank you, God. Because I was going to freak out. Like, I can't. And then, like you said, and I'm just like, yo, are we like, what? What? Gang, gang, gang. Let's go. Let's get it. No. Yo, it was just so much. And I was just like, an hour and a half of this? That don't make you like, I'm not gonna lie to you, the first time, it messed with me mentally because I didn't know what was going on in my body, so I was praying like, Lord, whatever it is, please let them find it out. Like, I cried. I ain't gonna lie. I'm human. I cried like, please let them figure out like, I don't want to have to go through this my whole life. Like, and my mom said something to me. She was like, you need to make them figure it out because you're not trying to wake up one morning and you cannot get out of the bed. Like, you're paralyzed. And that resonated in me. And I was like, you're right. I got 3 kids. Like, no. So if I did an MRI scan and she calls me, do my follow-up, let's schedule your follow-up, Okay, I'm all excited. I requested my records from the first MRI scan that I had from in California for her to have. I requested all my records to her because I was determined. I need you to go through all my medical records. I get in there and she's like, yeah, so I got your MRI scan back, I got the one from California too. And I was like, okay. I reviewed both scans, put them side by side to kind of, get an understanding of, why was the MRI scan there and how, it reflects this current one. And I was like, okay. And she was like, so after reviewing everything, and I just love the way that she put it, after reviewing everything, so I understand what's going on with your body now. I was like, you do? Really? She's like, yeah, I finally have a name to put with you're going through. To kind of help shed some light on that. And so we can actually start treating you. You do? I know. I'm sorry. I know I'm loud. um, and she was like, yeah. She's like, okay, well, you have multiple sclerosis. And I was just like, put a pin there. My mom diagnosed me back in 2016, 2017. My mom had diagnosed me with multiple sclerosis. She's not a doctor. So when I told the doctor some concerns along those lines of multiple sclerosis back in California, he shot it down. Okay, so fast forward back to 2020.
Wait, that's the same doctor that was gaslighting you before?
Facts.
Okay.
That
That's
same
military for
neurologist.
you.
I wasn't gonna say who it was. But anyways, I can't say who it was. You can, but I can't. Anyways, the civilian doctor in Nebraska, when so this is what she said. She said it so eloquently. Yeah, and I reviewed your scan from California. She was like, so for you all that do not know, multiple sclerosis, aka MS for short, is an autoimmune disease. And what it does is it affects your brain and your central nervous system. So your brain and your spinal cord and your spine, right? And so how they diagnose you typically is they do an MRI scan of your brain, your neck, so your spine, all your entire spine. Because lesions is what happens. MS will leave lesions on your brain and on your spinal cord, and it actually eats the myelin off of which is the fatty tissue that surrounds your nerves, that protects your nerves. So when your brain is sending signals down through your nervous system to tell you like, oh, there's pain or oh, that's hot, that's cold, the fatty sheet, which is called the myelin, protects your nerves. Okay. So I wanted to say that. So MS eats the myelin. So when my brain is sending signals, they're not entirely complete. Hence is why the numbness and the tingling. I have tremors in my legs. Stuff like that happens because my nerves are not functioning properly. Okay. All right. So, when she said, I looked at both scans, I saw on that scan in California that it was evidence you had lesions on your brain in California. So you had lesions there. I looked at your current scan. Those same lesions that you had in California are still there. But you have more lesions on your brain because the MS has progressed. So she diagnosed with RRMS, which is relapsing remitting multiple sclerosis, which is there's 4 different phases to that. So I'm in the beginning, the second phase, pretty much. So we caught it in time. What gets me, and Black women, Black people, Black women have that we are category, we put in the category of we can endure anything that stems back to slavery. You're strong. You can endure that. You got that. And so she says, I'm surprised you're still functioning the way that you're functioning with the amount of lesions and scar tissue that you have from this disease. Like you're functioning very well from what I see. And I looked at her like, yeah, because I'm a fighter, period. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a fighter. So regardless, MS, daggone, fibromyalgia, freaking whatever else is gonna come my way, I'm a fighter. Like, I'm not gonna allow that to define who I am because that's what y'all want me to do. But I'm not gonna do it. People depend on me. And so from that moment, and she said, but I have a treatment for you. We're gonna put you on this it's a form of chemotherapy. And I was like, yo, chemotherapy? Like, it's a lot. You know what I'm saying? You have MS. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're going to treat you with chemo. And I'm like, yo, it's a form of chemo. Let me make sure I say it the way she said. It's a form of chemotherapy because it wipes out your immune system, kills off your T cells. So it's a form of chemo. I just have the blessing of not losing my hair. Because when she said that, I was like, oh my God, I guess I'm going to need. First, I was like, I don't lose my hair because I do battle with
Never
alopecia.
touch a Black woman's hair.
Don't touch this crown. Um, but then I was like, nowadays we wear wigs like it's nobody's business. I was like, well, I guess I get my wig game up. Lace front, here she comes. Hey. But I like my natural hair. I like my curls, but I'll just have mad wigs. Hubby will just be a little upset because some coins that we got. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. Um, but yeah, so it was a relief to say the least. It was much relief. Having the diagnosis of knowing what's going on in my body, going back to physical therapy with a purpose, not as a push up or a pond. It was with purpose, which was very helpful to target, I'm saying, the areas that needed to be targeted for growth, to be all that good stuff. And so I kid you not, I got diagnosed in 2020, we PCS in 2021. That's how God works. And I had to understand once that happened, I was like, we moved here to North Carolina, which is funny. Um, full circle, because I left North Carolina to go to California, left California to go to Nebraska, and then we came to North Carolina. Full flipping circle. I left here, MS started to manifest, was not being diagnosed properly, was mistreated, misdiagnosed, played as a pushed off as a stigma, as I don't know what I'm talking about, as it's all in my head, to moving because he wasn't going anywhere to Nebraska to get the diagnosis after I endured some things, had our last baby, our third baby, process with purpose, and to get diagnosed, to come back, me personally, to come back to North Carolina where I endured a tremendous amount of trauma. So that is my first story, because North Carolina in the whole is a whole nother story. However, with the health is what I really wanted to talk about. You are your own advocate for your health. And as Black people, we are stigma, or placed in the stigma is placed over us, excuse me, that because of the color of our skin, we can endure anything. Oh, Black people, man, they strong as ox. Because that's what they say about us in slavery days. Okay. We weren't looked at as being human. We're not looked at as being a human being. We're looked at as being cattle. When they used to put us on that block, they would look at your teeth, your eyes, your ears. They would do a whole physical on us. Then they'd be like, oh, I want that one. Because that one right there looks like, oh, it can do all kind, it can do all of this. We were looked at as an object, not a human being. And so in the healthcare system, man, we have to be our own advocates. Speak up. Don't allow people to sit there and say, oh, well, if it's going on, it must be true. No, like, no, no. Keep a list of stuff. When you go to them doctors, man, do your own research. I had a lady tell me here, stay off of Google. Stay off of Google. It's not teach you anything. Like they'll tell you anything on Google. No, boo boo. You will tell me anything because all you want to do is pump me full of medication because you get your money from me going and getting these medications and me coming back every month to see you because you got to sign off on this medication. That's a whole nother story. But B, you are your own advocate for your health. And don't let anybody tell you that you're crazy because you're feeling stuff. Because you will start to believe that you're crazy because you're being gassed it's out the bag now. As my lovely brother said, what I'm saying? It's gaslighting at its finest. People will gaslight you in the industry, the medical field, the medical field, especially being Black, because they feel that we are less than. That's why a lot of Black women die giving birth.
Mm-hmm. Facts on facts. I mean, the thing that gets me though is if you have ever read like the Black Law Dictionary, it states that the term Black, if you claim being Black, I was like, you, per the Constitution, you're saying that you're not a human being. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's why a lot of times you might hear me say melanated individuals. But also I was jotting down some things while you were telling your story. And military, from being in the military myself, you knew me before the military. You got to see me while I was in the military, and you got to see how at one point I lost who I was while I was in the military in the process of getting out. The military breeds narcissists. And that's the thing why I don't really trust a lot of like military people in professional fields, because I'm just like, you're more about yourself. And how at the end of your story, probably about a good minute, 2 minutes ago, you mentioned that with doctors. I was talking with my dad's wife yesterday. She had a procedure. She actually had to get her rotator cuff fixed once before, and I had went through that as well. I'm like, for me, it didn't make sense that it took about 8 years for them to finally be like, yeah, your shit's fucked up. And it took me going to a civilian doctor for them to finally be like, yeah, you're gonna need surgery. Because I mean, when it reached a point to where I couldn't really even lift my arm, I knew something was wrong. And I had dislocated my shoulder going through the martial arts instructor's course back in 2015. Why did it take 2022 for me to finally get surgery? But anyway, yes, the military breeds narcissists. That's one thing that sucks, but I'm not gonna keep you on much long because our time is limited. I know you have other things you gotta do. So I just have a few questions. Like, what would you say to anyone that's battling MS?
Don't give up.
Don't give up.
For one, do not give up. It's a tough disease, man. Take your medicine. That's one thing. With MS comes depression. You know what I'm saying? Anxiety. So make sure you take your meds and find your person. Find your person. Yes. Find your person. Find your person that you can speak to and be
Okay,
your
Grey's Anatomy.
safe. I'm just saying, I don't know nothing about it. I'll be real with you. I don't watch that show. But make sure you have somebody you can talk to. Get you a therapist if you don't have one. You know what I'm saying? Us people of color feel like we don't need to talk to a therapist. I have a therapist that I talk to. Get you a therapist, somebody you can talk to and be honest with and process your feelings and emotion with, for sure.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
definitely something that I feel that the melanated community doesn't do. Like we're stuck with these generational curses that we keep passing on because we feel that because of our skin tone, we're so tough. We don't need to talk to anybody. We don't need to get help. We don't need any of that stuff. You need to suck it up and
Yeah.
keep it pushing. And that's something we definitely need to change, which is another reason why I'm like this season, I'm like, look, we need to bring more awareness. We need to go ahead and get this stuff out. Like we can make a change. Michael Jackson said it the best. If you want to make the world a better place, you must first look in the mirror and be that change. So with it,
No.
what if you could do anything, if you could do anything different, what would you do differently pertaining to this story?
Honestly,
That's what I'm asking for. Honesty.
I mean, that's all I really know is being honest, to be true. Like, I mean, to be no, like to be frank, like I wouldn't change anything. And
Hmm.
that's because me going through that has taught me a tremendous amount of things. If I didn't go through that misdiagnosis, the delayed diagnosis, then I wouldn't understand the importance. I probably would have been like, oh, oblivious to the healthcare system. Like, yeah, I got my CCMA, I want to be an RN. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Hmm.
that's the route that I was going. I wouldn't be on the same going to do the counseling route. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Of my career. I wouldn't have made that career change. I would have stuck with being blinded. But instead, I want to go, it affected my career. Hmm.
Got you. So do you have any last words for any of the listeners? Anything that else that you want to get out or any positive words? Shit, if you want negative words, whatever, that you want to send towards them for anybody who's listening.
Never anything negative or about positivity. Um, let's see. I would say, yeah, again, make sure you find someone that you can talk to. But it's okay to not be okay. You know what I'm saying? Like there are days you're gonna have down days. There are days I still don't want to get out of the bed. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, so just make sure you have a therapist you see on a regular. And again, it's okay. But most importantly, even if you don't battle with MS, you know what I'm saying, or any other what is the word I'm looking for? Let's say chronic illness or uncurable illness. You know what I'm saying? Like make sure you have someone, but just know that it does not define who you are.
Facts on facts.
You know what I'm saying? It does not define
Yeah.
who you are, but always utilize your voice. Like your voice is more important than anything because you know what I'm saying? Like my husband can say, speak up for me any day of the week. He could always be an advocate for me. But if you don't advocate for yourself and speak up for yourself, then
Mm-hmm.
I always used to say, if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. So you have to stand up for yourself. I mean, and if you want to take it to the biblical side, if God is for you, who can be against you? I mean, I got stands for days. So you just have to make sure you stand up for yourself. Because if not, especially in the healthcare system, being of color, as soon as they see you, they're already judging you
Yep.
off gate. So just make sure and be proud of who you are. Stand up. Like,
And if for anybody who is of any for the melanated individuals, when you stand up for yourself, don't be overdoing it. Like don't be yelling, causing a scene, and all that stuff because
no.
they're already off from jump, already waiting for you to wait. They're waiting for you to do something so that way they can be like you're being aggressive and they feel threatened. So
Mm,
I mean, you have to kind of be a little more tactical with it.
yes. Yes.
I just wanted to throw that in
Yes.
there.
It's
I just
not
want to
what you
throw that in
say.
there.
It's not
Yes,
what you say, it's how you say it. And
facts on
like
facts.
Danny said, like they're waiting. They're like, oh yeah, they're black because they have
Hmm.
this notion already from the TV shows, you know what I'm
Yep.
saying? The music, the way that we are portrayed as being savages. Let's just
Yes.
call us spade. They see us as being savages. They used to call us savages. Therefore, they still see us as that way. So if we go in somewhere, and this is not how I act on a regular, someone's going to give you that disclosure. If we go in somewhere and we come in there, girl, no, this is what I'm supposed to get. Okay. And because I know this is no off, you already lost somebody. Even for me, even if they're another person of color, if you come at me like
Mhm.
that, I'm gonna be like, "You know what? You can miss me with all that ignorance. You can miss me with all that. If you're gonna want going
Yes.
somewhere, especially with in a professional environment." My mother always, when I was going through before I got diagnosed, she said, "You need to speak their language."
That was something I never really understood until I got older after experiencing, things that I have gone through. But yes, I mean, knowing the language and speaking it actually works wonders with you. Like I have another girl that I ended up doing a recording with, and she was in the military. Come to find out, she was autistic and everything, and she used to always get in trouble, but she would get herself out of trouble because she would end up researching and learn how to speak that language.
Mhm.
And that saved her a lot of stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I wish that I knew how to do that back then because I could have avoided a lot of things learning that language. But I've
Yeah,
always been a headstrong individual to where it's like, nah, I would say what it was, like, and that was my issue. I would say what it was, and it doesn't help the fact that I have a lot of passion in the things that I do and that I say. So that brought me even more issues. And again, like I said, the military breeds narcissists. So it's like it's always about them. And it's like if you're trying to change anything, you're the bad person because
yeah,
this is how it's
mhm,
been. This is how it's always going to be because they don't want to do anything differently. But I
yeah,
mean, that's beyond me. But yo, I'm thank you so much for actually like jumping in and telling your story. So, yo, for anybody who's going through anything, has been going through anything, I mean, if you have listened to this full episode, I hope that you were to take something from it. I mean, there's a lot of emotion in the things that she was saying. I mean, at some points, it was kind of bringing me to tears just because the fact that I could relate to a little bit of it. I could relate to a lot of it, honestly. I'm not going to get too deep in that, but as I tell my story more and more as it goes on, you'll end up understand it as well. But yes, this is divine time. Everything that happens is a divine time. And I've been like exactly how she said. She started off in North Carolina, went to California, then went to Nebraska, came back to North Carolina. I mean, she did a full 360 around the country, and everything happened in divine time. Everything that she needed happened at the right time that it needed to happen to get her to where she is now. And I imagine she's doing great. I mean, if we're going to talk about the Bible, he says it might not be there when you want me, but I'll be there right on time, right? So, I mean,
yeah,
it's wild. It's wild. It's literally divine time. And I mean,
yeah,
as long as you're doing the things that you need to be doing and you're seeking that help, you're seeking that guidance, I'm like, you're going to get what is supposed to be there for you.
mhm,
I think
facts.
the biggest thing is just never give up. Just never give
Yeah,
up. Because as soon as you give up, you have
mm,
failed yourself and everybody else who was rooting for you.
mhm,
So just keep on pushing on. Relax your mind. It's divine time.